I was 34 and thought I knew what to expect. It was just a few weeks ago when I arrived in Eldridge, Appalachia. I planned to write about hidden trails and local legends. I thought it would be a neat adventure, just pretty landscapes and cool stories. I'd spent time in quiet towns before, so I wasn't easily spooked. My first night I sat in the diner. The locals were friendly. I drank black coffee and listened to their tales. They talked about strange things in the woods, but I brushed it off. I couldn't wait to get started. That night in the cabin I set up my equipment. It was cozy and I felt pretty comfortable. Around midnight I heard scratching at the door. I thought it was just a raccoon, so I looked out the window. I saw a shadow move quickly across the yard. My heart raced and I felt uneasy, but I ignored it. It was probably nothing. As the days passed, things got weird. I noticed flickering lights on the mountainside at night. I heard laughter, faint and eerie. At first I just thought it was my imagination, but it felt wrong, like something wasn't right. When the wind picked up, whispers drifted through the trees. I convinced myself it was just the trees talking. I went back to the diner to ask about the lights. The locals looked at me strangely when I mentioned it. Their eyes widened, and they warned me to stay away from the woods. Some things are meant to be left alone, one said. But I was curious. I wanted to know more. I didn't believe in ghosts, but I felt drawn in. The next day I packed my bag and hiked up the mountainside. The path was quiet. I heard only the crunch of leaves beneath my feet. After a bit, I stumbled upon old stone ruins. I paused, feeling a chill. Something was off. The hair on my arms stood up. I looked around, half expecting to see someone watching me. As evening kicked in, I heard it again. The laughter echoed through the trees. My stomach twisted. I thought about turning back. Just then, I saw a flash of light ahead. It pulled me in. Maybe it was just part of my adventure. But then, I felt a presence. I turned slowly, my heart pounding. "Is anyone there?" I asked, my voice shaky. Silence. Then it was as if someone stood right behind me. My breath caught in my throat. Then I heard a voice whisper my name. I didn't recognize it. I spun around again, but no one was there. Just the trees and thickening shadows. Panic hit me like a brick. I fled, running back through the woods, not looking back. On my drive out of Eldridge, I kept glancing in my rearview mirror. I wondered if I'd really left or if something had followed me home. Those shadows and whispers still haunt me. I still think about that night, and I still can't tell if it was all in my head or something more. I tried to shake off the feeling that something came with me from Eldridge. My days in the city were filled with noise, the bustle of life drowning out any lingering whispers. Yet in the lonely quiet of my apartment, I often found myself looking over my shoulder. The shadows in the corners felt deeper than they should, and the night seemed to envelop me more tightly. 2 weeks passed. I focused on my writing, attempting to capture the essence of my adventure, but the words evaded me. The stories felt flat compared to the haunting mysteries of the woods. I pulled out my notes and sketches, hoping to find clarity. That's when I came across the map I'd drawn of the trails near Eldridge. A little red X marked the spot where I found the ruins. I stared at it for a long time. A strange compulsion pulled me back. Against my better judgment, I packed my bag again, ready to return. Was I searching for answers or just trying to confront my fear? I wasn't sure. When I arrived at the diner, things felt different. The locals were busier than before, and the atmosphere had shifted. They exchanged glances as I walked in, but no one approached. Sitting alone at the counter, I couldn't shake the feeling that they were discussing me in hushed tones. I ordered coffee, but it tasted bitter. I gathered the courage to ask a waitress about the light and laughter I had heard. She blanched, her eyes widening with fear. "It's not just stories," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Some things out there, they've been seen. People go missing." I asked her to elaborate, but she turned away, leaving me more confused than before. The fear that had initially been just a whisper now roared in my ears. I paid my bill and left, but I couldn't shake the urgency clawing at my insides. I had to go back. The hike felt more intense this time. The woods enveloped me in a sense of both familiarity and dread. I retraced my steps back to the ruins, each snap of a branch underfoot echoing in the stillness. As I reached the clearing, I noticed something shiny among the stones. Curiosity ignited fear in my chest. I approached cautiously and knelt to examine it. It was a broken pendant, engraved with symbols I didn't recognize. Just as I lifted it, a chill swept through the air, sending a shiver down my spine. Then, the laughter returned, clearer, closer. My heart began to race again, pounding so loudly I thought I might pass out. I turned, scanning the trees, desperate to see who or what was making that sound. That's when I saw it, a silhouette standing among the trees watching me. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to run, but my feet felt glued to the ground. The figure raised a hand, pointing directly at me. In that moment, all rational thought vanished. I dropped the pendant and fled, branches slapping my face as I pushed through the underbrush. Now they weren't just whispers, they were real. I was being called, and I had no choice but to answer. I ran faster than I ever thought I could. The sounds of the forest blurred around me, branches whipped at my arms and my breath came in ragged gasps. The laughter echoed in my ears, taunting me, and I could feel the figure behind me, urging me to turn around. But I pressed on, fighting the urge to look back and confront whatever was pursuing me. Finally, I burst into a small clearing that I barely recognized. The sunlight streamed through the branches above, but it did little to ease the panic building inside me. There was an old, dilapidated cabin partially hidden among the trees. It was almost as if it had sprung up from the ground just to taunt me. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to keep running to get as far away from this place as possible. But curiosity pulled at me. The laughter faded, replaced by an unsettling quiet that seemed to weigh heavily in the air. I found myself approaching the cabin, the fear still coursing through my veins but tempered by a desperate hope for answers. The door was slightly ajar, creaking eerily as I nudged it open. Inside, the air was heavy with dust, and sunlight poured through broken windows, illuminating the remnants of a life once lived. Old furniture lay scattered and coated in grime. A rusted lantern hung from the ceiling like an ancient relic waiting to ignite. As I stepped further in, something caught my eye. A faded newspaper clipping lay on the floor. I picked it up, my hands trembling. The headline read, "Local hikers missing, strange sightings reported." The article detailed disappearances from the very trails I'd walked. My heart raced as I scanned the names and my throat tightened as one name stood out. It was the same as the pendant I had found. The symbols were a perfect match to the engraving. A chill washed over me. I stumbled back into a wall, the weight of the realization crashing down. "Send help," the article urged, "for those who might see them." I dropped the article, my mind spinning with the connections unfolding before me. Suddenly the door slammed shut behind me. I whirled around, my heart pounding so fiercely it drowned out everything else. Panic set in as I pushed on the door, but it wouldn't budge. The air thickened and I could feel something shifting in the shadows. Then I heard it again, the laughter right outside the cabin. It was different this time. It sounded more like a chorus. I pressed my back against the wall, straining to see through the cracks in the wooden structure. Shapes moved just outside, flitting between trees with a grace that sent a jolt of fear through me. I felt trapped, like a moth cornered by an unseen predator. My mind raced. What could I do? I couldn't shake the feeling that I was closer to something far more dangerous than I had imagined. Then, a voice whispered through the cracks, soft and melodic. "You shouldn't have come back." The shadows shifted again, and dread pooled in my stomach. I had to get out, but the urge to uncover the twisted truths kept me rooted. Who were these people, or things, and what did they want from me? Before I could grasp my next move, I noted a glimmer beneath an old table in the corner of the room. Whatever it was, it felt like a key to understanding. I had to reach it, but as I reached under the table, the laughter grew louder, enveloping me like a dark fog. The last thought I had before everything faded to black was that I might be too late to escape the mysteries of Eldridge. I woke up gasping. The air felt thick, suffocating me. I blinked, trying to adjust to the dimness of the cabin. My heart pounded in my chest, and it took me a moment to remember where I was. The cabin. I was still inside the cabin. I quickly scanned the room. I was still alone, but the heavy silence weighed on me. The door remained shut, the laughter outside now replaced with an eerie stillness. I struggled to my feet, trying to shake the fog from my mind. What had I seen before I lost consciousness? My eyes flicked back to the table, and I crawled toward it. The glimmer I had noticed was still there, flickering in the shattered light. I reached beneath the table and pulled out a small box, its surface intricately carved with symbols that felt familiar. I opened it gingerly. Inside was a collection of old yellowed photographs. My fingers trembled as I picked one up. It showed a group of hikers gathered in the same clearing I had stumbled into. They looked happy, carefree. But one face stood out, someone who looked like me. My breath caught as I traced the outline of the familiar features. I dropped the photo as if it were fiery hot. Was I dreaming? No, this was not a dream. I needed to find the truth. But what was this place really? As I looked around, a nagging feeling settled in my gut. I didn't just stumble upon this cabin, it was waiting for me. I glanced toward the door. Maybe it was time to confront whatever had trapped me inside. With renewed determination, I rushed to the door and slammed my shoulder against it. The wood creaked, but it wouldn't give. I pounded on it with both fists, shouting for help that felt swallowed by the shadows. "Let me out, please." Panic clawed at me, choking my voice. No response came except the haunting echoes of my own desperation. Then, an unexpected sound sliced through the air. A single clap of applause rang out behind me. I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach. From the shadows emerged the figure I had sensed before, their face cloaked but their body unmistakably human. "You found our little keepsake, I see," they said, their voice smooth yet chilling. "Curiosity always leads to such trouble." "Who are you? What do you want?" I stumbled over my words, barely holding it together. "Tell me, have you ever wondered what really happens to those who go missing around here?" They gestured toward the photographs scattered at my feet. The question froze me in place. I thought of the article, the missing hikers, and the laughter that haunted me. The figure stepped closer, the shadows dancing around them like wraiths. You shouldn't have disturbed things that are better left alone. My heart raced. The laughter had echoed back to me, and it was clear. The sounds were part of a game, and I was trapped in it now. Then from the shadows I noticed movement. More figures emerged, flickering like ghosts, their faces hidden yet watching. I was surrounded. My mind raced. In a matter of moments, what I thought would be a quest for answers had turned into a hunt. I had to escape. Before anything else could happen, I turned back to the door. But before I could reach for the handle, it swung open. Fresh air rushed inside, mingling with the stale air of the cabin. I saw an expanse of trees, and the faint outline of other figures moving in the distance. "Run!" the cloaked figure shouted, and without thinking I dashed into the sunlight, knowing something much darker was now hunting me. As I burst through the door, the sunlight felt blinding, almost disorienting. I stumbled into the clearing, breathing in deeply and desperately, trying to shake off the suffocating fear that gripped me inside the cabin. My feet pounded against the damp earth, propelled by sheer adrenaline. I could hear movement behind me, the rustle of clothes, whispers that taunted me from the shadows. Glancing back, I saw the cloaked figures still lingering in the doorway, their silhouette like a dark stain against the vibrant green of the trees. Panic surged within me. I knew I couldn't stop. I dashed into the woods, weaving between the trees, branches scratching against my arms like claws. Every sound made me jump. Was it just the wind, or was it them? The figures were pursuing me, but I couldn't afford to look back. I focused on the ground ahead, the dappled light filtering through the leaves guiding my way. Then something caught my eye. An old trail marked by faded signs and overgrown bushes. I hesitated, but it was my best option. Maybe it would lead me to safety. I veered off, ignoring the way the brush snagged at my clothes. I could hear whispering now, incoherent but persistent. I shuddered, quickening my pace. The trail twisted deeper into the woods, the sounds of the outside world fading. A chill settled in the air. A low fog began to creep in, wrapping around my legs like a cold hand. I tried to push through the unease, to outrun whatever hunted me, but something wasn't right. Every rational thought was drowned out by a sense of dread gnawing at me. That's when I spotted an old cabin similar to the one I had just fled. My heart dropped. This couldn't be happening. Was I running in circles? I approached cautiously, hoping for some sign of life. Maybe someone could help me. As I neared the door, I heard laughter again, an echo of the previous sounds that had filled me with a sense of foreboding. My breath quickened. It felt like a trap. I turned to leave, but the sound of footsteps made me freeze. Then I saw them. The figures from the first cabin emerged from the trees, their faces obscured but unmistakably watching me. They seemed to blend effortlessly into the forest, their movements graceful, almost ethereal. I realized I had no choice but to confront this horror head-on. Before I could process my next move, one of the figures stepped forward, no longer concealed by the shadows. They raised a hand, palm facing me, and an inner voice told me to turn and run. Instinctively, I took a step back. "Stop!" they called out, the voice commanding and eerily familiar. "You only need to understand." But I didn't want to understand anything. I turned, racing down the trail, adrenaline flooding my veins. I could hear their voices behind me, echoing through the trees. "You're part of it now." Suddenly I tripped, crashing to the ground. Pain shot through my ankle, but I scrambled to my feet again, fear propelling me forward. I could hear the whispers closing in, the laughter rising again, swelling like a storm. Then everything went dark. I awoke on the cold, damp ground, gasping for air. My heart raced in my chest and pain throbbed in my ankle. I blinked, trying to adjust to the dim light filtering through the fog. Panic twisted in my stomach as I realized I was still in the woods, still lost. I pushed myself up carefully, wincing with every movement. My surroundings felt different now. The trees loomed higher, their branches forming a tangled web overhead. I was disoriented, lost in a haze that kept threatening to pull me back under. I struggled to regain my bearings, but the whispers were still there, dancing in the distance. They felt more tangible now, wrapping around me like a ghostly shroud. I needed to move. I couldn't linger. Pushing off with my good leg, I tried to limp away, but the pain shot through me again, forcing me to stop and take a breath. I scanned the area, hoping to spot some familiar landmark. Instead, all I found was the old cabin looming back at me, now distant but haunting. I shuddered. Something flickered in the corner of my eye. A shadow? My breath quickened as I turned to see a small clearing nearby, partially hidden by brambles and vines. Curiosity nudged me forward, despite every instinct screaming to run. I fell into a crouch to clear the branches. As I stepped into the clearing, my eyes widened in disbelief. There, half buried in the earth, lay a series of stones arranged in a circle. They glistened with a strange light, as if imbued with some kind of energy. The air felt electric, buzzing against my skin. "What is this?" I muttered to myself, instinctively reaching out to touch one of the stones. The moment my fingers made contact, a jolt of warmth surged through me. I stumbled back, gasping. A voice echoed in my mind, urging me to listen, to understand the significance of what lay before me. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the edge of the clearing. I froze, gripping a branch for support. The cloaked figure stepped closer, their features still obscured, but I could sense their scrutiny, their interest in me. The laughter echoed again, shocking me into action. "What do you want?" I shouted, trying to sound brave. They didn't respond right away, instead gesturing toward the stones. "You felt it, didn't you? A connection," the voice came, smooth and resonant. I could feel my heart pounding. "I didn't want any part of this," I yelled back, anxiety creeping into my voice. "Just let me go. You are entangled with this place now. Leave, and you'll only find despair." I didn't want to believe them. I turned to flee again, but my ankle betrayed me, collapsing once more under the weight of the fear and urgency. I struggled to my feet again when the shadowy figure reached for me. "Choose, wanderer. Stay to understand, or flee and risk everything. As their hand brushed my arm, a vision burst forth. Flashes of the past of others like me who entered the woods half hopeful, led by mystery only to vanish forever. That's when the whispers transformed into a shrill chorus, drowning out my thoughts. I felt something shifting within me, a choice emerging. Would I confront my fears or would I succumb to the unknown? Before I could decide, the fog thickened and I sensed a new danger closing in. The ground trembled beneath me, and I understood then that whatever was hunting me was not done yet. I jolted, heart racing as the ground shook, and the whispers swelled into a cacophony. I clutched the stone circle, its warmth grounding me. The figure loomed close, their presence both comforting and terrifying. "You must act quickly," they urged, their voice barely audible over the chaos. I struggled to comprehend. "What do you mean?" I spat, trying to mask my fear with anger. "The spirits are restless. They want something from you," they said, looking beyond me into the encroaching fog. "If you don't make a choice, they will take you." My mind raced. I faced the stones, yearning for an answer. "What do they want?" I whispered, almost pleading. The figure's gaze pierced through the haze, searching for something only they could see. "Your truth. Will you confront what you've been avoiding?" The intensity in their voice made me shudder. I thought of the weight of my fears, the failures that followed me. Could I face all this? Then, as if summoned by my thoughts, a shadow flickered at the edge of the clearing. My instincts screamed to run, but I hesitated. I steadied my breath, standing on uncertain legs. Whatever haunted these woods was coming. I felt it lurking, watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the clearing, carrying with it something cold and wet. I turned just in time to see the fog swirling, coiling like a serpent, its tendrils reaching towards me. I could almost hear their whispers forming words, urging me to step closer to the darkness. "No!" I shouted, stepping back. Panic surged as I realized the figure was fading, the edges of their cloak dissolving into the mist. "Don't leave me!" I reached out, but it was as if they were untethering from this reality. "Choose now," they echoed, a faint smile on their lips just as they vanished. My heart sank. I was alone, and time was slipping away. The shadow advanced more aggressively, the whispers rising to a near-deafening pitch. I could feel the air thickening, pressing down on me. In a desperate moment, I glanced back at the stones. It was then that I noticed something new, a tiny inscription on one of them glowing faintly. I scrambled toward it as the shadow drew closer. "Welcome, Seeker," it seemed to say. A new swell of energy coursed through me as I traced the letters with trembling fingers. The shadows recoiled, shrinking back momentarily as the warmth spread from the stone and enveloped me. I knew what I had to do. Either I would face whatever I had to confront or become a part of this darkness like so many before me. The choice was mine, but could I rally the strength to make it? I took a breath and shouted into the whirling fog. "I choose to face my truth." The words felt powerful. The air crackled, and the shadows responded, coiling like snakes in retreat. But the ground under my feet shifted, and the stone circle began to glow brighter. Then everything went dark. I was falling. I hit the ground hard, the breath knocked from my lungs. I opened my eyes to find myself back in the woods, but now everything felt even more disorienting. Shapes moved in the corners of my vision, hazy and blurred. I realized with a jolt that I wasn't alone. "Welcome back," a familiar voice called through the shadows. I turned, eyes widening in shock. The figure was there again, but this time their hood fell back, revealing a face I both recognized and feared, the face of someone I thought I had left behind. Now it's time to unveil the truth. I recoiled, my heart racing as the familiar face stared back at me. It was Anna. A chill washed over me, memories flooding my mind, both good and bad, the laughter shared, and the silence that followed our last encounter. "What are you doing here?" I stammered, still reeling from the shock. She stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "You know why I'm here. You need to confront what you've avoided for too long." Her voice dripped with a mixture of concern and reproach that struck me like a slap. The fog shifted around us, swirling more aggressively. The whispers returned, but this time they seemed to echo Anna's words. I wanted to bolt, to escape this twisted reunion, but my legs felt like lead. I can't, I gasped, the truth of my failures rising like bile. I can't face it. Not now. Anna's gaze softened, but I caught the flash of disappointment in her eyes. You think hiding will save you? It will only make the darkness stronger. You have to embrace it. That's the only way to break free. Just then, a growl rolled through the trees nearby, chilling my blood. I instinctively took a step back, fear thrumming in my chest. I turned slightly, searching the shadows. What was that? I whispered, my voice trembling. It's them, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The ones you've angered by running from your truth. I felt the weight of her words sink in. I was being hunted, and not just by whatever prowled the woods. Before I could respond, a large dark shape lunged from the trees, its eyes glowing like embers in the darkness. It was massive, and the ground shook as it approached. I barely had time to process my fear, before horror turned my insides to ice. Run! Anna shouted, and everything instinctively kicked into motion. I sprinted, her voice an anchor guiding me through the thick fog. But as I dashed deeper into the woods, the whispers transformed into a frantic chorus, chanting my name. I stumbled over roots and branches, my breath coming in quick gasps. Anna's presence felt more ethereal now, like a fading memory, but I could still hear her voice urging me to push forward. Face it. You can't escape. Then I spotted a clearing ahead, an expanse bathed in moonlight. As I neared it, I felt an inexplicable pull. But what awaited me in that luminescence? Could it be the truth I so desperately feared? Don't! Anna's warning rang out just as I entered the clearing. The moment I did, the growl erupted into a deafening roar that echoed through the night. I turned around, paralyzed by the sight of the creature now standing in the shadows. Not just any beast, but a grotesque visage of violence and chaos, a reflection of my own anxieties. There, looming in the dark, it wanted more than my fear. It craved acknowledgement of my failures. The distance between me and it felt like miles, yet it was also alarmingly close. I hesitated, the urge to flee battling with a desperate need to confront my past. My heart raced as a singular thought cut through the haze. I couldn't run anymore. Just as I was about to summon the courage to face it, a flicker of movement caught my eye from the corner of the clearing. A figure emerged, and my heart sank further. Who was it now? And how did they expect me to confront my truth when even my past was conspiring against me? As I squinted into the dim light, the figure became clearer. It was a woman, slightly hunched, her hair wild and unkempt. She wore a tattered dress that hung on her frail frame. I didn't recognize her, but there was something eerily familiar about the way she moved, as though she were part of the mist itself. "Help me!" she cried, her voice trembling. My first instinct was to run, but the desperation in her eyes rooted me to the spot. The creature was still prowling in the shadows, its eyes fixed on the scene, waiting. "You're not safe here. Get away from the light," she shouted, looking frantically between me and the ominous beast. Her urgent pleas rang in my ears, yet I felt a conflicting pull towards her, like she held a shred of the answers I needed. "What do you mean? Who are you?" I yelled back, trying to make sense of everything. I didn't have time for this, but a part of me yearned to understand. "Don't you see? They're drawn to your uncertainty. You must find your strength." The woman reached out as if trying to grasp something invisible. "You're connected to it, to all of this." At that moment the ground trembled beneath me. The creature bared its teeth, snarling, and the air turned electric with a chilling wind. I took a step backward, feeling the whispering shadows closing in. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but I couldn't leave this woman behind. Not when she was my only link to understanding this madness. "Then tell me what I need to do," I shouted, panic creeping into my voice. "Embrace your shadows," she pleaded, her eyes wide with urgency. Only by facing them can you move past this, let it surface. Before I could even process her words, the beast lunged forward, snapping its jaws just inches from my face. That was all the motivation I needed. I could feel the weight of fear gripping my chest, but something else ignited within me. I needed to confront it. I needed to stop running. I turned my focus back to the creature, forcing my gaze to stay locked with its fiery eyes. "I see you," I shouted, each word like a declaration. "You can't control me anymore." The growl that erupted from the beast was deafening, yet I stood my ground, unwilling to be driven away any longer. The whispers blurred into a wailing sound, combining with the creature's roar, creating a chorus of nightmares that filled the air. And then I felt it, the awakening of something inside me, something fierce that countered the darkness. I had hidden from my truth for too long, but now, the call to face it pulsed through my veins. Suddenly I spotted something glinting beneath the foliage at the edge of the clearing. My heart raced as I tugged at the brush to reveal a shard of broken glass. It seemed impossibly out of place, and yet, everything felt connected, as if it had always been waiting for me. But before I could grasp it, the shadows twisted violently and the woman screamed from behind, "No, don't let it take you." A surge of adrenaline coursed through me, creating a sharp clarity amid the chaos. I had to decide. Could I truly confront my demons, or was this all just a desperate game I still couldn't escape? I lunged for the glass, unsure of what I would find on the other side of this unearthly encounter. Then everything went dark. I gasped as I surfaced from the void, body thrumming with energy. I found myself back in the clearing, but the shadows had shifted, warped into something almost tangible. The air was thick, like being submerged underwater. I blinked, struggling to piece together what had just happened. The creature loomed nearby, but it now appeared different. Its face was strangely familiar, morphing into the visages of every beleaguered memory I'd tried to bury. A collage of my fears and failures stared back at me, each one more haunting than before. "No," I shouted, forcing the fear down. I had come too far to let it consume me now. I stood my ground with all the resolve I could muster. "I'm not afraid of you anymore." As if shocked by the intensity of my words, the creature recoiled momentarily. Its flickering form began to twist. The edges of its shadowy mass writhed as if trying to escape. The disembodied voice of the woman echoed in my mind. "Embrace your shadows." Just then, I remembered the glass shard I had found. I glanced around frantically, focusing on my surroundings. The clearing was as disorienting as ever, but I was determined to discover its purpose. I took a few steps forward toward where the glass had been hiding, and just as I reached the spot I caught a glimpse of something more, a reflection shimmering in the remaining shards scattered across the forest floor. The fragments glistened with memories, each piece depicting a moment that had defined me. My failures, my doubts, the relationships fraught with tension. Yet among those darker memories, I could make out sparks of joy too. Glimpses of laughter shared with friends, moments of triumph. They were all part of me. "Embrace it," I murmured to myself, the woman's voice guiding me through my thoughts. I knelt, picking up a piece of the glass and holding it tightly. The jagged edge felt cool between my fingers, painful yet familiar, like the memories themselves. "I won't run anymore," I declared, looking toward the creature. Its form shuddered once again, flickering between those I feared and those I missed. I accept all of this as part of who I am. My heart raced. This was my truth, raw, unfiltered, and scarred. As I held the glass shard aloft, a warm light blossomed from its depths, illuminating the clearing in a soft embrace. The shadows receded, and the creature shrieked, a cacophony of wrath and sorrow before dissolving into the night air. Waves of relief washed over me, but something deeper stirred within. Although the air felt brighter now, whispers still lingered, echoing through the trees, just out of reach. Unanswered questions twinkled in the dusk like stars. Why had I been drawn back here? What was the true nature of the place? I searched through the growing quiet, hoping for clarity. Behind me the woman smiled, but her figure began to shift and fade too. "Remember," she called as her image disappeared. The choices you make unite you to all who wander. It filled me with both hope and uncertainty. What did that mean? I wanted to ask so many questions, but time stretched and clarity slipped away like smoke. I began to walk, still clutching the glass, preparing to leave the clearing behind. Yet, as wooded paths emerged again around me, the sensation of being watched prickled at the back of my neck. As I retraced my steps, I turned one last time to glance back at the clearing. A shroud of mist cloaked remnants of the shadows, and I felt a cold chill dance through me. I didn't know how far I'd come, or how this journey would shape me moving forward. But one thing was sure: Eldridge had left its mark. It had changed how I seen my own darkness. I couldn't shake the sense that part of its enigma followed me now. I moved to a different city after that, but sometimes as moonlight spills through my window, I wonder if the reflections in the glass will whisper to me again.